I don't remember when it started. Maybe it was always like this and I just got old enough to notice. My parents never yelled at me, never hit me. But they didn't really see me either. When I got an A on a test, they barely glanced at it. When I fell off my bike and scraped my knee, they told me to walk it off. Meals were silent affairs, my dad buried in his phone, my mom staring blankly at the TV. I started to feel like a ghost in my own house. The thing is, I got used to it. I stopped showing them my grades. Stopped trying to talk to them at all. I figured if they didn't care, why should I? But then weird things started happening. It started with my reflection. One night, I looked in the bathroom mirror and swore my reflection blinked. But I hadn't. I stared at it, trying to convince myself it was just my imagination. But it wasn't. My reflection started moving differently. Smiling when I wasn't. Watching me when I turned away. It wasn't me anymore, it was someone else. I told my mom, but she just waved me off. "You're too old for imaginary friends," she said without looking up from her phone. That night, I woke up to the sound of whispering. It was coming from the mirror. I didn't want to look, but I couldn't stop myself. My reflection was grinning at me, wide and unnatural. And then it spoke. "They don't notice you," it said. "But I do." I tried to scream, but no sound came out. The reflection reached out, pressing its hand against the glass. "Let me out," it whispered. I ran to my parents' room, but they didn't wake up. I shook them, screamed at them, but they didn't move. It was like they couldn't hear me anymore. Like I was really invisible. Now, I have moved out from my parents' house and have plenty of friends. That thing, I don't know, whatever it was, it slowly disappeared from my life, slowly enough that I didn't even notice. I think maybe this is what happens when you're ignored for too long, and something else tries to take your place. My parents, Tom and Diane, always told me never to go into the small room at the end of the hallway. I was 6 when I first asked about it. "It's just storage," Diane said, her tone sharp. "Nothing for you to worry about." But even then, I could tell something was off. The way they avoided the door. The way Dad locked it every night before bed, checking the handle twice. The way Mom flinched whenever I asked about the faint thuds I sometimes heard coming from inside. As I got older, my curiosity grew into an obsession. What could possibly be so secret? One rainy afternoon when they were out running errands, I found the spare key. I didn't hesitate. I had to know what was behind that door. The room was small, windowless, and lined with shelves. At first glance, it looked like a workshop, tools, jars of nails, and bits of machinery scattered around. But then I saw them. The pictures. Hundreds of them, covering every inch of the walls. Pictures of children. Some I recognized from the neighborhood, others I didn't. All of them had the same terrified expression. My heart raced as I stepped further inside. In the center of the room was a wooden chair, its arms and legs bound with straps. A dark stain spread across the seat. I reached for one of the photos, my hands shaking. On the back, written in neat handwriting, was a single word: failure. The sound of the front door slamming shut made me jump. They were home. I barely had time to lock the door and scramble back to my room before I heard Dad's voice thunder down the hallway. "Jamie?" he called, his tone eerily calm. "You weren't in the locked room, were you?" I didn't answer. I lay in bed, clutching the photo to my chest, my heart pounding in my ears as footsteps approached my door. The footsteps stopped just outside my door. My breath caught in my throat. I held the photo so tightly it felt like my fingers might snap, but I couldn't let go. The word failure burned into my mind. I had to know what it meant. For the next few days I tried to act normal. I didn't speak about the room or the photos, but the weight of it was always there, hanging over me like a storm cloud. Dad's strange calmness, Mom's avoidance, it was all becoming too much to ignore. I never dared to go in that room again. My parents decided to leave that house and we shifted in another town. Years have passed and now I don't live with them. My parents passed away in car accident 2 years ago and I don't know where my siblings are. I never got the answers about that room and what the word failure meant. I've made my hypothesis that maybe they were part of some cult shit. My life is pretty normal now and I don't want to think about it anymore. The neighborhood always admired the Wilson family. Their lawn was immaculate, their house always in pristine condition, and their daughter, Clara, was the picture of perfection. Straight A's, captain of the debate team, and a piano prodigy. What no one saw was the pressure brewing beneath the surface. Clara's parents, Laura and Greg, had a strict set of rules. Every second of Clara's day was scheduled. School, piano practice, tutoring, extracurriculars. She wasn't allowed to have sleepovers, watch TV, or even own a cell phone. They said it was all for her future, that she would thank them when she got into an Ivy League school. But Clara didn't feel grateful. She felt suffocated. One night, Clara was sitting at the piano, practicing the same piece she'd been working on for weeks. Her fingers ached and tears blurred her vision. Laura sat behind her, watching every move like a hawk. Again, Laura snapped when Clara missed a note. "You'll never get it perfect with that attitude." "I'm tired," Clara mumbled, barely audible. "Tired is for the weak," Greg chimed in from the kitchen. "You're not weak, are you, Clara?" Clara shook her head, forcing herself to keep playing. But the notes sounded wrong, disjointed, as her hands trembled. The room felt heavy, the air thick with their expectations. That night, Clara didn't go to bed. Instead, she walked into the storeroom and opened the drawer where her parents kept the keys to the basement. The basement was forbidden, locked away from her prying eyes, but she'd always wondered what was down there. Curiosity or defiance, she wasn't sure which drove her. The key fit perfectly. She opened the door and descended the creaky wooden steps. The air grew colder, and the faint hum of a generator echoed through the dark space. What she found at the bottom made her knees buckle. The walls were covered in photos of her. Clara at 6, holding her first spelling bee trophy. Clara at 9, winning a regional piano competition. But there was something off about them. The smiles on her parents' faces weren't joyful, they were hungry. As if she wasn't their daughter but a prize. In the center of the room was an old, dusty recording device. She pressed play. Static filled the air before her mother's voice crackled to life. "She'll be perfect soon," Laura's voice said, calm and cold. "Just a little more work. She'll never disappoint us again." Clara stumbled back, knocking over a stack of journals. They spilled open, revealing pages upon pages of her parents' meticulous notes about her. Every grade, every mistake, every minor achievement, it was all catalogued with chilling precision. She realized then she wasn't their daughter. She was their project. She ran to her room and locked the door. She felt like everyone is watching her 24/7, every move of her. Her breath was caught in her throat. She was shaking and thoughts were rushing through her mind. She felt like she will lose her mind at any moment now. There was no escape. She was stuck in the matrix. Suddenly Clara stopped. She made her mind. She was tired and wanted to stop all of this. She wanted freedom. Clara went to kitchen, pulled out knife from drawer and went to her parents' room. They were sleeping like robots. Without any further thoughts, she stabbed them to death. Mindlessly, she was standing in front of her parents' dead bodies covered in blood. She was young and not mature, so court decided to not give her death penalty. After spending 2 years in jail, she was finally free. But the past began to take a toll on her mental health. After 2.5 months of coming out of jail, she couldn't hold it back and committed suicide. And the perfect picture of Wilson family shattered.